spirituals in the African American church. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the state of the original hymns and spirituals in the African American church, Minister Gregory Taylor, a member of Corinthian Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, let me welcome you to the show, Minister Taylor, and to talk about what I consider to be a very, very important topic, even though it's a topic that people rarely think about. And you're talking about the state of the original hymns and spirituals in the African American church. And we want to find out more information about that, Minister Taylor. But before we get into that, let's have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of your experiences before you became involved in what you're doing now, and then we'll get into a discussion of the state of the original hymns and spirituals in the African American church.
Yes. Dr. Haney, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and my mother say that she marked me by the church. That means during prenatal life, I was marked by the church. And in Nashville here, I'm a member of the Corinthian Baptist Church with Reverend Enoch Fuzz. And Reverend Fuzz gave me the opportunity when he was on the radio to introduce the hymns and spirituals from Atlanta, Georgia, when I would call into his radio station. And my educational background comes from Selma University, and I attended graduate school at Virginia Union in Richmond, Virginia. And I did missionary work in the state of Alabama, and I had a one Sunday church in Atlanta, Georgia. And these are some of the areas of my background, my experiences. My father's roots are from the Watley Island in the Caribbean, and my mother is part Choctaw Indian as well as African. And I'm the youngest son on the four girls, and my father was in the World War II. And I came to Christ through the Vacation Bible School program, which is out of the Southern Baptist Church in a National Baptist Church program. And most of all, and musically, I was introduced to the old hymns and spirituals by the late Dr. J. Robert Bradley, who's well known here in Nashville, Tennessee. And my spiritual father, the late Dr. Otis Harvey, was also a great singer and of the church in Alabama. And so when they would couple up together and do revival, we would hear Dr. Bradley every year for 7 days, you know, and all of this has contributed to what I think is an unmatched memory of the old hymns and spirituals in our churches.
Very good. And of course, when we talk about, and I think we can start this topic now a couple of minutes before the end of this segment, but at least could you give us some idea when you talk about the original hymns and spirituals in the African American church, what distinguishes the original hymns and spirituals? Are they the same hymns that are sung in an update? How do you make a distinction, and how do you say that these are not as good as they were in the earlier times? Speak to it from that perspective, and start here, and then we'll pick up at the end of starting next segment as well.
Well, thank you, Dr. Haney. I think that's an excellent question. Well, in the church that I come up in, we were taught that hymns and spirituals are sung and the gospel is preached. And I think today that the gospel has gotten lost in the music. And we were also taught to never attend a singing where the gospel was not preached. And these are the things that help to shape my background in the area of music. And today there's another element that has affected our music today. I have this memory of the things that we were taught not to do, the clapping, the marching, and things like that in church. We couldn't march in, we couldn't clap, and we couldn't rock in church. But during the memory of that time, that was during the 60s. And just recently, I interviewed one of the civil rights activists in Tuscaloosa, and he explained my background to me, why the minister of my church did not allow us to march, rock, and clap in church. What that did, we were taught that our old hymns and spirituals were our anchor in America and the means by which our ancestry is passed from one generation to the next. And what I'm witnessing today is where that process has been interrupted. You know, and what interrupted the process was what you call the mass choir.
Okay.
During the 60s period, what you may say was the freedom choir. And there has been a disconnect from the sanctuary choir. And this is where I see the differences in the music or the beginning of the breakground. And from that time, several variations have spun off from that.
Very good. Of course, we're getting ready, Minister Taylor, for our first commercial break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. But what we want you to do when we come back is to talk about this mass choir. I think that you've indicated that there's been a disconnect, and this mass choir has sort of come in between perhaps the congregation and whatever, and that it has almost replaced what you call the sanctuary choir. Is that correct?
It has disconnected.
Disconnected. And of course, let us take this first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.